We're going live on Facebook. This is good. Is it good? We are green on YouTube. Much success. Good. And we look good, brother. All right. If my people on YouTube can give me some type of notice, let us know if you can hear us. Can you hear me and my great guest?
Testing. Everybody hear us?
And, you know, we got a little buffer in there. Brian Crosby says, hi, Tim. Hey, Tim and Kyle.
Hey, buddy. I just retweet, and I see myself in the retweet in the video.
Can you hear us? Bradley B. Good evening. The True Jorf. Christopher Davis. We got a full house in the chat room. This is good. Got a little sound effect going for these people.
Hello, everybody.
Frederick Murphy, can you hear Kyle?
Frederick
They can hear us. All right, guys. Real quick.
Tim Black.
Kill it.
Tim Black.
All right, guys, thank you for joining me tonight for a special edition of the Tim Black at Night Show. I'm very happy to bring a guest on the show that has been around for quite a minute. He's been doing this thing. He's the ever-popular host, producer, I would say owner of the whole damn thing of Secular Talk. Give it up, my friends, for Kyle Kulinski.
I appreciate that, man.
No doubt, man.
I was just telling Tim, I look so much older, I feel like, in this light. I got like a weird light going. I feel like it looks like it adds 10 years to my face, but whatever. I look distinguished. Do you ever hear somebody say that when they see like gray hair? Like, oh, you look distinguished. Like,
yes.
No, a nice way of telling me I look old as fuck.
Right. I told you, man, I got gray in the beard, man, so I'm making you look young, man, so don't even worry about that shit. You look good, man, you know.
Well, I've been dyeing it since the fetus. I've been dyeing it since I was like 18, so I've been fighting it.
It's all good, man, yeah. Fight the fight, man. And look, ladies and gentlemen, my fault, Periscope, YouTube, and Facebook people, welcome to the show, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Happy Halloween. That's why I'm wearing this shit. Come on.
Yes. I'm dressed as a lesbian softball coach, people tell me. I've heard that one way too many times.
Okay. That's a good one too, man.
It is. It sticks. You know, sometimes something sticks and you don't want it to stick. You're like, I just gave up after a while. I'm like, all right, you know what? You guys got it. You got it.
Hit that one out the park, man. So look, guys, so anybody who doesn't know, Kyle he's got a very popular YouTube channel, and he's been out there talking about political commentary. Also the atheists, like secular. So, Kyle, could you let them know briefly, like, what your channel's about, man?
Yeah, sure. So when it started, I probably focused more. Well, you know, I've always kind of focused more on politics, actually. But you know, yes, there's a healthy dose of atheism, secularism, just irreligiosity thrown in there, and obviously we espouse a progressive, social democratic worldview, secular worldview. And other than that, it's just really covering the news and things that I find interesting, pretty much. And you know, we were talking right before we came on here. In 2008 is when I launched the YouTube channel, but that was just every now and then I do a video just for fun, basically. And then in 2009, we started the Blog Talk Radio show, and we did, you know, I do that for fun too. And then there was a break there when I went to school, and I was in the car business for a year, maybe like a year and a half. And then I decided maybe 4 years ago now, or 5 years ago now, to try to do Secular Talk full time. And then I've been doing it full time ever since. And I've been fortunate enough to, you know, have it work.
Well, man, give it up for that, man. He's been having it work. That's for sure.
Thanks, man.
No doubt, man. Been killing it. And I so relate, man. One of the things you hear Kyle's story, he stayed with it. You know what I mean, Kyle? Like, I've seen great people come and go, man. And the only difference is some people stayed and they fought through the downturns, and other people gave up, man. What do you think about that?
I think you're 100% right. I think showing up is probably the biggest battle. Just if you just keep showing up, they can't deny you. And you know, you've done that too. You've really, really worked hard, and you've got quite a following. And there's something to be said. You got it from scratch, and there's really something to be said about that, because that's from the bottom up, working hard, and basically earning your stripes.
Oh, my brother, man. That's all right. I appreciate that. That money we discussed earlier about for you complimenting me on air. I'll make sure I get that out to you. You know what I'm saying? But look, part of my success, Kyle, is bringing on great people like you, man. Bringing on Lee Camp, bringing on Jimmy Dore. Having people come through that have a following as on their own, and that helps as well.
Yeah, well, it's my pleasure to join you because I think you're doing great work.
Thanks, man. Look, like Kyle was saying, he's told me he was in the car business for a while, and that really had me tripping because I did the car business for about the same amount of time, man. What was one of the turnoffs to that business, Kyle, for you?
For me, I feel like it was everything looking back at it, because at the time I was like, you know what, this is okay. This is good. And truth be told, when I'm not into something, I can be the laziest motherfucker on the planet. Am I allowed to curse here? I could curse.
Yeah, you good, man. We demonetize. It don't fucking matter.
Yeah, I know the story. So yeah, it's I was lazy at it because I didn't really care about it, and I was talking about this on my podcast with Corin recently. How I feel like I just would be too honest with people almost, where I'm like, yeah, whatever. What do you want to know about the car? This one's all 4-wheel drive. This one's whatever. And when you don't care about something, it's hard to sell it. And so if somebody were to watch, my show or your show, they might go, wow, you guys are great salespeople, if you will. Like, we can push our ideas well, and we could argue for our ideas well. But again, that's only because we actually believe in and care about what we're talking about, and we're trying to make a difference with something. When it was something like the car business, I just didn't care about it. So I felt like I was almost too honest as a salesperson to a fault, where I didn't give people, sometimes in the car business, when you're a salesperson, people want you to kind of give them the salesmanship and walk them down a path and lead them to the conclusion that they want to get the car. Whereas I was more of kind of like a take it or leave it kind of dude. And when I look back at it, it wasn't, I probably wasn't the happiest when I was there, when I was doing it, because and also because of the money. We were talking again before off air. I was saying how at the place where I worked, we literally made less than minimum wage. The salesman made less than minimum wage unless you pushed a whole bunch of units out. And the way that they get you on that is they say like, oh, don't worry, you're definitely going to sell enough to make way more than minimum wage. But no, some weeks that wasn't the case. And you walk away with $200 before taxes. You're going, what is going on here?
It's horrible, man. Like, but the only good things about it that I enjoyed, Kyle, during my time was people being excited about getting a new car or a new to them car. Like I've had families get their first like minivan.
Yeah.
And the kids are like jumping around and everybody's happy. It's like it's the next biggest purchase for a lot of people next to a home, So I felt good about giving them what they wanted, but on the back end, sometimes, like you said, man, it was a lot of hassle. You got to jump cars in the middle of the winter. You got to jump.
Did they ever make you? They made us as salespeople shovel when there was snow for hours on end. And again, I'd be like, we're not even making minimum wage. You're not paying us hourly. Like, what? You can't do that. But they just do it. And then, so this is one of those things, man, that made me like, I thought about this a lot after the fact, that they should have a law that's a no exception to the minimum wage law. I mean, obviously, you and I both agree there should be a living wage, not just a minimum wage, but it should be a no exception to the minimum wage law. Because they always try to get people on that, whether it's waiters, or whether it's people who work on commission, and they succeed. And we all know that's because those industries give money to politicians.
And that's a great point, man. I like that segue into an issue that we both talk about a lot, man. Living wage, bro. The thing that gets me, Kyle, man, is how many people are there really out there who don't want a higher minimum wage? I don't get it, man. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, well, the polls show it's about 80% that want to raise the minimum wage. And I think it varies, like when you go, if you go $12 versus $15, it depends how you phrase it, and it depends what number you give people. But according to most polls, even most Republicans want to raise the minimum wage. So that's one of those issues where, like, the American people are pretty united, and the only people that are against us, it's Washington and the corporations.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just a shame that's one of those things where, because of money in politics, we haven't been able to move forward when everybody already agrees. It's like with guns too. I mean, everybody agrees to do a background check. That's not a controversial thing. Like, everybody agrees to that, 93%, and we still don't have it. and we don't have it because of the corrupting influence of money.
Yeah. I will admit, man, my feelings about gun control have changed a little as I became more educated. But like, I'm with you on on the actual background checks. I know most states do have some form of background checks, but they're like loopholes that you can get through as far as like the gun auctions if you go to whatever. So it's not as comprehensive as we like it to be, man. Right. But yeah, I've never met a gun owner, not a legal gun owner anyway, because I met some who were illegal. Whoever said, "Nah, I don't want background checks," because they got kids too, man. They got families. They want to live.
Yeah. So I'm curious. I always said I'm kind of moderate on that issue overall, gun control. I'm curious. So what did you used to think, and what do you think now? Where do you fall on it today?
I used to think all of the evil in the world was primarily behind guns, like guns. And that's because of my environment that I was when I was a young teenager. Like, I left home when I was 17, man. And I lived in a situation where people were living the street life, and they were dealing with drugs, or, living basically like what they could steal from the department store, or just doing anything to get by. And I met a lot of people, man, who friends who had issues with their parents, ended up out there. And the thing that killed them wasn't like, drugs per se, but it was like guns. Like that's what took a lot of the people I went to school with and people I met later. So to me, guns had always been an issue, the instrument by which my friends died. But what changed me, Kyle, was people on my channel, as I got more involved in commentary, who started waking me up to some of the other issues surrounding it. So it wasn't necessarily the gun. Of course, gun is the instrument, but there are also other factors. And I think that just sort of opened me up. I had to also think about single women, people living by themselves in these environments who need some protection. Who am I to tell them they shouldn't protect themselves? If your girlfriend is coming home late and you're out of town or wherever, she might want to, she's coming home from waitressing at 2 a.m. Who am I to tell her she shouldn't be able to, make sure she's going to be okay? I mean, I don't know if it's I don't know if she can do an actual TJ hooker, or I don't know, man. I don't know if she can if she can protect herself to the level where I could say she's definitely going to be able to take this guy out. Like, she's got to be pretty good. But the option should be there for a law-abiding citizen, in my opinion, that if that makes them feel a little safer, who am I, man?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Who am I? And I just looked at it different, man. My sister, she lives pretty far away, and she's married now, but when she wasn't, these are things I thought about. So, yeah, man. What about you? Like you said, you're moderate. What's moderate mean?
So I think when I was younger, I've moved left overall, because when I was younger, I think I was fully libertarian on this issue, where I was, I'd basically make the point of, people don't treat people who are not criminals the same way you treat somebody who's a criminal. If they're not going to do something wrong with it, of course, you let them have it. But I did start moving left as time went by, because it just struck me as I want to treat guns the same way that I prefer to treat drugs. And my whole thing on drugs is I want to legal, tax, and regulate them. I want to legalize them, tax them, and regulate them. But a lot hinges on that last word, regulation. So if you ask me, like, would I legalize crystal meth, or would I legalize bath salts? I'd say no, because that's an extreme version of those drugs. But I do think that, like, for example, instead of having crack or cocaine available to people, we could sell Adderall over the counter. I'm fine with that. So I'm in favor of legalizing these things, but, basically doing it in a way where it shuts down the black market or really hurts the black market and gives people more liberty and freedom. And I feel the same way with guns. So in other words, the thought that, like, I was like, oh, I'm obviously in favor of some regulation, is when I realized, oh, I don't want, this in Kentucky to have nuclear weapons or a chemical weapon or a tank or a grenade launcher, and then you just go down the list and then you realize everybody has a line. It's just a matter of where you draw the line. And, I think it's reasonable to say, obviously fully automatic weapons people shouldn't have, maybe semi-automatic too, but okay, it's a little more debatable on that one. But I just want to treat it like I treat drugs, or like I treat cars, where, I think there should be background checks. I think there should be testing. I think you should make it a permit system. You should make it so that it's treated with the responsibility that it deserves. And I think that if you were to just do basic regulation, like ban high-capacity magazines and do universal background checks, I think if you just do very minor things, you actually see a really significant drop in the number of gun deaths. And, it's a hard conversation to have to say, hey, what number are we okay with? You know what I mean? Like, at what number can we say, okay, we'll live with that in society, a certain number of people dealing with this horrible issue. But I mean, that is a real discussion because with alcohol, for example, we all agree, like, okay, we're going to have it because we believe in freedom. But yeah, some people there's going to be alcohol poisoning and some people are going to be alcoholics and it's a tough thing, but you don't take it away from everybody because of them. So it's just a matter of where are we going to draw the line and how much will it affect the outcome. And I'm in favor of some very moderate gun reforms that I think would help significantly in terms of ticking down that number of over 10,000 homicides every year in the U.S.
Yeah, man, that's an excellent point. I agree with most of it. I think that it's a very nuanced issue, man. It all depends on where you come from. I know people, like, for instance, a part of what changed my view was knowing people that grew up with guns. Like, yeah. I didn't grow up that way. Like, we didn't have guns in the house, but, being pretty much coming of age in the 80s, early 90s is when I came out, really, got into the world, there were people at the same time who were taking classes in school where they'd have gun classes. Like, right. I grew up in Maryland. I was born in D.C., raised in Maryland, closer to D.C. area. And just in the 30-mile radius, you got Virginia, Northern Virginia, Maryland, D.C., all different, laws on guns, extremely different laws on guns. And just over the border in D.C., in Virginia, like I said, man, it was the culture of guns. Like, it was a regular thing. It was not, a criminal, only guys who wanted to rob people had guns. This is just, shotguns for hunting, shotguns to protect your home. It's just a regular life. So I had to take that in consideration, but my worldview got bigger as I met these people. And then when I met them and talked to them, they called the show. Because, I do a call-in show, Kyle. And I learned from these people, I don't know what it's like to live in Appalachia, you know? They call and break it down for a brother. And I'm like, okay. So I that's what got me going, man. But I love your stance on drugs, man. Like, of course, brother don't want crystal meth legalized. Yeah. Yo, come on, man. Who, I'm like legalized cannabis.
Sure, of course.
I guess people would say you can't pick and choose your drugs. Well, we got to do something. I can't just say.
It's the same thing as guns. You're not going to let people have grenade launchers. Like, you're not going to let them have those kinds of weapons, anti-aircraft missiles. You're not going to let them have that. It's the same thing with drugs. You're not going to let somebody have crystal meth or bath salts or something that's crocodile. That's the one that was the heroin knockoff that made people's skin rot off. Like, yeah, it's okay to regulate that. There's no problem with that. And by the way, I might surprise people because you spoke about, some people grew up with guns and stuff. I'm one of those people. Even though I'm born and raised in liberal New York, my dad, when he was growing up, his dad had like a farm or something a good 2 hours north of New York City. And when I was a kid, we would go up there maybe twice a year, 3 times a year or something. And when I was there, when I was a kid, he had me shooting guns. I was a little kid shooting a Ruger 22 at like an old bleach bottle that they poured water in or something. So like, I get it. It's funny. I always find it funny when there are some people online who would try to portray me as massively anti-gun, but I always say, you're just not listening to what I'm saying then, because I do have a more moderate take on it. And again, I grew up in a situation like that. So I don't want to treat somebody who's just hunting or whatever, just living their life the same way that you would treat a guy like Dylan Roof for having guns or, a terrorist. It's obviously not an issue that's black and white. There's a lot of gray area, and there's things we could do to fix the situation, but also maintain as much freedom and liberty as possible.
Yeah, speaking of terror, man, both Kyle and I were talking offline about the act that took place in New York just earlier today. Neither one of us has really dived into the issue, man. But Kyle, I tell you, man, every time there's this type of situation where numbers of people are killed or wounded, we always had a debate if this person is a terrorist. And I don't want to put you on the spot. I'll go first, man. I'll just say anyone who kills more than, I don't know, we need a number. Like, I don't want to waste time like putting people in classifications. If you were killing people indiscriminately and you didn't have an argument with your spouse, I don't know, if it's not a next door neighbor that you're pissed off at, like if there's no reason other than you hate these people for whatever reason, I just want to call it terror. And now can we move on to the point of, solving the crime? Can we get back to taking care of the victims? Like, I don't want to spend all day on defining terrorism and non-terrorism. And I think it'd just be more simpler to just go by body count. You kill more than 2 people in a situation of people that you don't know, strangers. We're just going to call you a damn terrorist and we're going to hit you with that. What do you think, Kyle?
Well, I think everybody's familiar with the fallout from these things that happen. And it really, the response from society really depends on what the perpetrator looks like. Everybody knows that. Yeah. If it's a black person, it's immediately a thug or a gangster. If it's a white person, it's a lone nut with mental illness. And if it's somebody who looks like he's of Middle Eastern descent, then it's immediately a terrorist. And I think what's frustrating to a lot of people is that basic framework that I gave you, the media and society sticks to that so much that even when there's overwhelming evidence to the contrary, they really don't frame it properly. So a great example is Dylan Roof. He wasn't charged with terrorism. But he had a manifesto where he said, I love Rhodesia, which is the racist state in South Africa. He broke down how he thinks whites are superior to blacks, and he obsesses over the black crime rate, and they're raping our women, and they're doing this and that. And so that is by the textbook definition of terrorism, which is doing violence in the name of a political or religious ideology. He's a terrorist by any definition, by the most straightforward definition of terrorism you can imagine. But of course, he's referred to more as a mass shooter because he's a white guy, and they go, oh my God, that's not representative of other white people. So obviously he's a lone nut and he's a crazy person. But then again, like I just said, when it comes to somebody who looks like they're of Middle Eastern descent, or when it comes to somebody who's black, they go right to thug, gangster, or terrorist. So to me, what I've always done is, first of all, I agree with you when you say we got to focus on the issues and how to fix it. But for me, my golden rule is always just be as objective as possible and stick to whatever the facts are in that given circumstance to determine whether or not the person's a terrorist or a mass killer. But again, at the end of the day, if they're killing people, and they are, then it's just a matter of, okay, well, what do we do to try to fix this in the sense that it doesn't happen again? And oftentimes when you talk about that, people will smear you as if you're apologizing for terrorism or something, but of course that's not the case. What we're trying to do is make sure it doesn't happen again, while also, trying to uphold civil liberties. And like now, because of what happened in New York, everybody knows the next step is Trump is going to be out there talking about his Muslim ban again, and going to be talking about doing an immigration ban. And I mean, obviously those are just things that that's not going to fix the problem. That's going to have no positive outcome. And the downside is obviously tremendous, because you're going to have this dragnet that sweeps up a lot of innocent people.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, look, man, I appreciate your comment, man. That's a very straightforward way to look at it. I just get so tired. I feel so beat down trying to have that conversation with people on, YouTube comment sections are. They don't want to listen to that. Look, the bottom line is, generally speaking, from what my experience is this, white folks don't want to be associated with fucking terrorists. Like who wants to be? Neither do I. So of course they want to make this guy like this is a one-off. This guy's a one-off. That in that case, Dylan's a one-off. We don't want to, and I don't, and I feel the same way about any black terrorists. Like I don't want to be grouped with that. So I get it. I don't agree with it. And it just gets so tired. I'm like, look, this is called all of them terrorists who do this shit, like whether it be in Vegas or whether it be in Sandy Hook, whatever. Let's just call them terrorists across the board. But I know that's a simplification. It doesn't really go by the actual textbook definition for it. I'm just tired of this shit, man. But you brought up Trump, Kyle. So, brother, I see. So his terror ban, his Muslim ban, it was just canceled down again. Like he can't seem to get this shit through.
Yeah.
And you think he's going to use New York, this recent horrific, fucking earth-shattering event, to use it to bolster that claim again, huh?
Well, at the very least, they're going to try to score political points off of it. I mean, there's a chance he tries to do something else through executive order. And it'll probably get slapped down again because he's just like, his executive orders are just comical. He's like a child writing things in there and thinking that they'll somehow stick and become law. But any court looks at it for 3 seconds and they're like, you can't do this. Like, this isn't how it works. We have a constitution. You're violating all these. So, I mean, that's what happened with the transgender in the military. I just covered that story, how it was hilarious, the statement from the judge, because the judge was like, this appears to not only be unconstitutional, but have no facts like to back it up. Because they always make all these claims about how, oh, you can't have them in the military for reasons X, Y, and Z. So, but at the very least, they're going to try to score political points off of it. And what's really amazing, and you'll see it, it'll unfold right in front of us, is take the response from what just happened in Las Vegas, the response from the right in that instance, and compare it to their response in this instance. Now, by the way, everybody, in no way, shape, or form am I trying to downplay what happened in this instance when I say, as of right now, that Tim and I are talking, I think there are 8 people or 9 people who've been killed in the situation in New York, in the terror attack in New York, okay? In Las Vegas, it was how many? There were 500 injured, 58, 59 dead. Yeah. So the body count through the roof in that situation, and we were literally past it in 3 days. Nobody said another word about it in 3 days. And then you could start the clock now. We'll see how long they try to harp away on this one, because to them, it's all about the narrative, where you and I will try to have a conversation after any incident and try to figure out, okay, what can we do to stop this? What's the best way to do it moving forward? We'll have that conversation after any incident, terror attack, mass killing, whatever it is. What you'll notice is on the right, they're only going to talk about it when it's a Muslim terror attack. When it was a mass shooting like happened in Las Vegas, well, okay, we're talking about it for a day and we're done and we're going to move on and forget about any even universal background. So any kind of regulation, nothing, no, we're done. Let's move on. So it's sad to see how clear the double standard is.
Yeah, after you've been doing this a while, and like you and I, man, we start to see the trends. Like, we know exactly how this thing is going to play out, and it's not really surprising. You know what I mean? If they can't use it for political gain, then it goes away. If they can, it'll stick around for a week. And that's what's going to happen here. I mean, and the transgender thing was a perfect example. I wrote that down while you were talking, because I didn't see, like, I've never understood why there was an issue with trans in the military. I looked it up, Kyle. It's like, and you know this too, like less than 1% of Americans even identify themselves as transgender. So we're talking about less than 1% of the population. And I don't know what the percentage is of actual trans people in the military, but all the reports I read from the Williams Institute said that it's a negligible cost. So Trump is just, it's like he's always trying to, I don't know, man, build his base, or ain't nothing like that, got to get that bass going. I don't know, man. He got some 808s in his trunk, and he just want to blast that shit. That's the way I see it. And you're right. I agree. I believe that that's what we're going to do. We're going to see they're probably already doing it. While we're on the air right now, there are Republicans somewhere talking about Muslims in the ban, and how, see, if only we would have banned the Muslims yesterday, this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, and by the way, from what I saw so far, I think the person who did it, I don't know if they were born. I don't think they were born in the U.S. I think they did immigrate, but they came from Uzbekistan. And I'm pretty sure that Uzbekistan is not on Trump's banned list. And I'm pretty sure any objective observer that would look at that would go, hey, wait a second. The most attackers on 9/11 came from Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia wasn't on his ban list. Trump just gave Saudi Arabia $110 billion worth of weapons. So even if you were to do a ban list, which of course you shouldn't because that's a dumb idea, but even if you were to do it, he's done it in a way that's absolutely ridiculous because he doesn't have the number one country that's a threat to us on there. So again, it shows you, look, man, you said it. He's posturing right now. Like, he's posturing to try to shore up support in his base, and it's because he's bleeding support everywhere else. His approval rating's 33% at the moment. And when it's 33%, he's saying, well, at least I got my base with me. At least I got the Pat Robertson crowd and the far right fundamentalists and the white nationalists with them, and they're never going to abandon him. So he figures, let me just harp away on the stuff that makes them happy, and then at least keep that base of support there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I don't know, man. I know right now, this second, there are also people making videos, Kyle, saying that this was all, an act, that Trump made this happen to make the investigation go away. Like the Russia investigation. Can't you hear it right now? That's what they're saying. Like, oh, we know this isn't real. Look at this person. They're not really crying. This person isn't, this person is a crisis actor. Let's go on Craigslist and let's look for an ad that shows they were looking for actors in this area.
I'm curious to see how Alex Jones responds to this, though, because Alex Jones is 100% pro-Trump, and I feel like he will act like this one is the one legitimate terror attack because it was done by a Muslim and because, it's happening where it actually can divert from the conversation about corruption in Russia and everything. And I have a take on that that's not in agreement with mainstream Democrats. I'm curious what you think about the whole Russia thing.
Oh, dude, man. I've been calling it from day one that I felt that this was all a smokescreen for the most part. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some shady business dealings. What they call Paul Manafort doing, fraudulent slip right on time though. But yeah, what they caught him doing, man, people do all the time. Business people do all the time. They stash money in a foreign bank and from a foreign country, and they don't want to get taxed on it. That's not new shit. I think you'd find a lot of people do that. A lot of business people, if you delved into auditing their finances. But I do feel, man, that this was all to camouflage Hillary Clinton's loss, to soften the blow. The book Shattered or whatever. I think it was all premeditated, and it's just a tactic so that the Democratic Party can somehow remain viable and have an excuse, frankly, for why a reality TV star beat the brakes off of their coronated queen.
Yeah, we pretty much agree 100% because it was funny to me on Twitter. People were expecting me to downplay the Manafort indictments. And I was like, well, no, I think of course he's guilty of money laundering. Of course he's guilty of all this corruption. Of course he's guilty of the bribery and stuff. And I'm 100% for him being taken down. And I said they should also go after Michael Flynn because Michael Flynn was doing corrupt deals with the Turkish government. And they should go after his Health and Human Services Secretary because his Health and Human Services Secretary, Tom Price, was investing $300,000 into health company stocks, and then he'd propose bills that would increase the stock price and make him rich. So I'm 100% in favor of going after these people. But at the same time, yes, we do have to realize that if the main claim is, and of course this is the case from the corporate Democrats, the main thing they say over and over is, oh my God, collusion with Russia, collusion with Russia, collusion with Russia. Well, guess what? Even if that happened, let's say, there was collusion between Hillary Clinton's campaign and Ukraine, where they tried to dig up dirt on Trump through Ukraine. There's also collusion, now we know, between Hillary Clinton and Russia because they hired the British spy who went and got information from the Russians, to say, oh, look, Donald Trump and the PP tape and the dossier and stuff. So the point is, even if there was now, well, the Clintons did it with Ukraine, the Clintons did it with Russia also. So the idea of oh my God, be afraid of this Russia collusion with Trump, it doesn't add up. And furthermore, man, if there's collusion, guess what? Russia has to get something in return, right? Well, they haven't gotten anything. We still have the sanctions on Russia. In fact, they increased sanctions on Russia. He bombed Syria, which is one of Putin's top allies, which, by the way, I was totally against Trump on that because you shouldn't be bombing the Syrian government, which is fighting ISIS right now. So it doesn't add up. And you're right. What's crazy to me is that the Democrats always misfire on the things that they're supposed to be angry about. Like the same time that we were talking about this Paul Manafort stuff the other day, at the same time, Rex Tillerson and Jim Mattis were talking about how we literally have a right to go to war in any country for as long as we want, and it doesn't matter. We already have the ability to do that. And even if we want to start a war with North Korea, we don't need congressional approval. So they're coming out and saying we are a dictatorship and everybody needs to sit down and be quiet. And the Democrats are busy screaming in the corner about an issue that's not that, which is no, focus on that now. That's the big thing.
Absolutely. If you're going to say this guy is the most corrupt, most horrible president ever in the history of presidents, even there's a Little League team somewhere that has even a better president of the Little League club than Donald Trump. Well, if that's the case, last thing you want to do is increase his military budget and then give him full access to the military and be able to jump through all approvals and skid past all our checks and balances in our system. But see, that's the thing. Kyle, why do people think you wouldn't call that shit out. Like, are they so used to having these people just stick to a party, stick to a side, and never have objectivity? Is that it?
You know, I find it weird, man, how there's certain things get legs and other things don't get legs in corporate media. But you know what? That's why you and me exist, because we exist to be the people who go, no, we're over here keeping our eye on the ball, and here's the things that are really, really, really important that they're not talking about. And that's why we're able to attract audiences when we start out with the budget of $0.00. I mean, you give Wolf Blitzer a YouTube channel, he's not going to be able to get, thousands of subscribers from scratch because he's not talking about anything serious. But in corporate media, certain things catch on. And yeah, the Democratic Party, you're right, they're pushing a narrative. I mean, think about it, man. When Obama was president and he took our wars, our interventions from 2 to 7, if you don't blink when that happens and you're a Democrat, well, then now you have no standing under Trump to be like, oh my God, we got 7 wars going on and he's increasing them. And he's like sending more troops now and increasing drone strikes, 432%. Well, now you can't say that because it's the boy who cried wolf. You didn't say it under Obama. So now we're in a position where they put themselves in a corner. They can't argue against the most important things they should be arguing against. So, they get caught up in the whole Russian narrative. And look, it hurts their chances. It hurts their chances at getting reelected. It hurts the country. And that's, of course, why we're trying to do Justice Democrats. And there's all these different avenues that people are trying to fight the corporate Democrats because it's really about saving the country. I mean, I know it sounds hyperbolic, but if people's choices are Tim Kaine or Donald Trump, I mean, man, are we in a bad spot.
Tim Kaine has the personality of Elmer's glue. Like he can't get his own, like his mom is not excited. His mom's probably passed. That's not good. His girlfriend, his wife isn't excited to see him. Like no one's excited. No one knew who he was. No one gave a shit. Not a single solitary person gave a shit about Tim Kaine. And look, notice how they skip blaming Hillary's choice to Tim Kaine as part of the reason why she fucking lost the election. Like no one talks about that. It's all about the blacks who gave her 94% of all black votes voted for Hillary Clinton. It was against my better judgment. Don't hold me accountable for that shit. I tried to tell them not to vote for her. Oh, damn, this is a hot topic. I forgot. We haven't talked about this. But yeah, I agree with you so much on what the Democrats do, man. It's just so hard. I want the Democrat Party to be a better party because we need an opposition party. I support other parties, bro, but I got to work with the one that's in power, man. And it's not just about the general election, Kyle. It's also about local elections. But I have people that hate the Democrats so much, they don't even want to support a district where there are no Green Party, are no independent party people running, and there's somebody running as a Democrat who's close to the values they want. They're so pissed at the Democrats, they don't even want to support that person. I'm like, look, that's the baby out with the bathwater. That's going to get the dog, throwing the dog out too. Like, that's too far. And what's your take? I know you have to be aware of all the animosity from the people regarding the Democrats due to the 2016 primaries. How do you balance this shit, man, and try to keep sincerity, but also keep your vision alive as far as Justice Democrats and what you're trying to do?
So that's the question. I mean, that's the most important question because I certainly get, and I know you get, I get the anger and the frustration of the people who are like, you know what? Fuck you, Democrats. I am 100% done with you. I get it, man. I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't get it. And when we started Justice Democrats, we had a lot of discussions where we were going back and forth. We're doing a third party. No, we're not going to do a third party. We're going to try to take over the Democratic Party. No, okay, but we're going to try a third party because that's the way that we all want to go. Yeah, but we're going to take over the Democratic Party. We went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. For us, the deciding factor was that when it actually came time to put boots on the ground and figure out an actual strategy to try to win, because when you do that, you realize the system, you know how people say, oh, it's rigged against third parties. No, it is literally rigged against third parties, like literally rigged against third parties to the point where if somebody says, you know what, I'm checking out, fuck it, I'm checking out. Well, then the system goes, okay, bye. And what they do is they shut people out who are independent thinkers, who want third parties, and they rig the rules against them so that you're forced into the two-party system. Now, we hate that. And I support every single third-party movement, independent movement that's fighting to try to get ranked choice voting or any of the ways, proportional representation, any of the ways where we can chip away at that, lower the favorability you have to have, the popularity you have to get into the debate. Like Justice Democrats, in our platform, we talk about how we're allies to third parties and we're in favor of ranked choice voting and all this different stuff. And we do it because we fully understand that those voices are legitimate. Those voices are usually right. Those voices agree with us on all the issues. Those voices are our allies. We've just made the calculation looking at the facts that if we try to do the third party way, that would just mean we're basically trying to run a marathon. And before we run the marathon, we take a sledgehammer and we swing it at our kneecaps. So for me in New York, for example, if I were to, for example, deregister as a Democrat, not be a Democrat anymore and be an independent or just not be anything, well, I just made it so that now I can't vote in Democratic primaries. And if I can't vote in Democratic primaries, that means when a Bernie-like voice comes up for a congressional race or a Bernie-like voice tries to take down Chuck Schumer in the primary, or the next Bernie Sanders or Bernie himself runs again in the Democratic primary, that means I just shut myself out. And then I'll be going, damn, I should have stayed registered as a Democrat. So for us, it's more of a decision of necessity. But that being said, I in no way, shape, or form begrudge the people who say, I'm not doing it. Sorry, I'm not going to register as a Democrat. I say, you know what? That's totally fine. And I understand. And if there's a Green Party candidate, who is in alignment with my values more than a Democratic candidate, or if there's a Democratic socialist who's more in alignment with my values than a Democratic candidate, in a heartbeat, I support the Democratic Socialist or the Green Party candidate or the independent. So really, to me, how the corporate Democrats always talk about unity, unity, unity. Well, what they mean is unify behind our corporate message and behind the next Hillary Clinton-like candidate. I'm not in favor of that unity. The unity I'm in favor of is Justice Democrats, people from within the Democratic Party trying to take it over and make it a populist left party, teaming up in unity with third parties, teaming up in unity with the independents. So that's what it's about. And I always say this to people. Would you rather have, it's just a matter of math. Would you rather have one way to try to take down the Republicans or two ways to try to take down the Republicans? And really the question is, would you rather have one way or two ways to take down the Republicans and the corporate Democrats? And obviously the answer is you want two, right? It's just math. That's better. So that means a two-pronged approach, a strategy where there's an insurgency from inside the party to take over the party and make it a populist left party. And then there's also the insurgency from outside the party where they're trying to attack and beat the corporate Democrats. So I always say a two-pronged approach is better than a single-pronged approach. We're much stronger when everybody's trying to take it over, going their own avenue, than just having half the movement here or half the movement there, or, everybody's focused on one thing or the other thing. So if we all work together on the issues, then that's what matters and that's how we win. And you and I probably both agree, Medicare for all, free college, living wage, this is what it's all about and this is what we're fighting for. How we get to that point is largely irrelevant as long as we get to that point and we don't take no for an answer.
Man, excellent response, bro. Excellent. Look, I think that some people, like you say, now I'm one of those people, Kyle, that I'm like, F the Democrats, I feel that way. But see, I also know some candidates. Like I've met and talked to Tim Canova, and Tim Canova is a far cry better than Debbie Wasserman Schultz. If all I had to do is cut off my finger, my pinky finger, or my left hand, not my main, I'm a right-handed guy, I'd do it if it meant that Tim Canova could beat Debbie Wasserman Schultz. That's how much I despise Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And so I'm a realist to the point where I realize that in order to run in these districts, these candidates who I know are good people, that I know will fight for the people, will go in and do our bidding, not the bidding of their corporate sponsors, not already looking at how they're going to get reelected and what donors they need to line up, but good people like Tim Canova. Those people may have to run as Democrats in order to have a chance in hell. And this impacts people's lives in Florida. It may not impact my life here in Maryland, but it sure as hell will affect those people in Florida. So when we make these sweeping generalizations, we end up hurting the people we care about. We hurt, and for instance, in Maryland, Ben Jealous is running for governor of my state of Maryland. Right now we have Larry Hogan. Larry Hogan is Donald Trump 2.0. He's a businessman with a lot of money, with no experience. He ran totally on the Donald Trump platform. He is now my governor. of course I want Ben Jealous to clean the floor with this guy.
Yep.
And the fact that he's running as a Democrat, that doesn't matter to me. What it matters to me is in my state where they're taking money from a new casino and the money that we thought was going to stay in the public school system, they said, well, they sold it to us like this. They said, well, we're going to open up this casino, and what we'll do is we'll take that money, a large amount of that money, and we'll shove it into our school system. But what they did was they kept their word, but they took the money they were already allocating to the school system and put that shit somewhere else. So instead of having twice the amount of funds, we end up with basically the same amount of funds. The sneaky bastards. So, of course, people, you have to look at how it appears on the ground in real life for working people. And if supporting Ben Jealous is wrong because he's a Democrat, just think about all the people that get hurt in my state. Now, it may not affect you when you're online or you're on Twitter, wherever you live, but you got to think about this stuff. Local elections matter, man. So I think part of it, I get it. We're still close to the election. People are raw, Kyle. You know, they got to listen to this Russia shit every time they cut on their TV. You know, they raked Bernie over the coals for accepting an invitation to come speak. He didn't buffalo his way in, Kyle. They asked him to speak. Hillary turned it down. Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, none of them wanted to open the show. And then they still dragged him. So I have people that watch my show, and they see this. So this only makes them more bitter and more pissed off. Maybe as we get closer to 2018, people will slowly, they will have softened up a little and understand we can't hold on to the bitterness so much that we hurt our damn selves.
But you're right, and I feel like the answer is that we say to those people, no, it's us. We're the movement. You're not the movement, because they always try to co-opt the movement. That's the trick. Look at Tom Perez and everything he's doing with the DNC, purging the Bernie Sanders supporters and the Keith Ellison supporters. And meanwhile, he has the nerve to talk about unity when he's out there. And our response is, no, we are the movement. You're not the movement. The answer isn't us unifying with you. The answer is you step aside and we take over, and we're not having it any other way. And I think you made a great point. And as you were talking, it hit me too, where, so the main thing is it's not about, nobody should have Dave Rubin syndrome and get all caught up in labels where it's like, you know how Dave Rubin's like, I'm a classical liberal, and it's just labels all day long. And that's the lowest form of discourse and conversation when it comes to political issues. What matters is the substance, the policy substance. What matters is what specifically are you in favor of to make people's lives better. And whether you're somebody who's an independent, whether you're somebody who's a registered Democrat, whether you're somebody who's in the Green Party or Democratic Socialist, or you're part of whatever prong of the movement you're part of, all that matters is that we're supporting candidates who support Medicare for all, who support free college, who support a living wage, who want to end the wars, who want to legalize marijuana. If we have good candidates, then you're right. You know what's going to happen? People who from across the movement are going to come together to vote for that candidate. And that's when you see the real unity. But you're never going to get the unity behind Tom Perez, and you shouldn't get the unity behind Tom Perez. I wouldn't give a dime to the DNC, not a dime to the DNC. So that's what we need to keep in mind, is that you're right. It's all about the issues. It's not about the labels. It's not about the approach people want to take. Because at the end of the day, if we're coming together to support those candidates who are going to make people's lives better, that's what counts.
Man, look, man, this is excellent, man. I could keep talking, man. Trump. Let me ask you this, Kyle. One of the things that I struggled with early, right after Trump became our president, was how hard to hit him. Because what I did not want, Kyle, was to be labeled as one of these guys that does like the Seth Meyers, Trevor Noah, this constantly attacking Trump. So how have you found sort of like a way to do it without being a fucking hack?
So for me, it's basically what's in the news that day, and I just got to dig deep all over the place to try to find everything that's actually happening. Like that story I mentioned earlier about how they're saying we're going to do endless war. Like that was in like one outlet, and it's a scandal that was in like one outlet. But basically what I do is, my philosophy is pull no punches across the board. So whatever is out there that's negative about Trump, I'm going to cover it as long as it's true. Whatever's out there that's negative about the Democrats, I'm going to cover it as long as it's true. So on a daily basis on my show, probably on an average day, you have like maybe 60% of the videos are Trump bashing, but a healthy 40% of the videos are corporate Democrat bashing. And basically what I say is I just try to go wherever the facts take me, and I pull no punches, and I go after everybody as long as they're wrong. And we're trying to basically make it so that we have politicians who will actually represent us. And that means kind of ruthlessly going after both Donald Trump and the Republicans, but also the corporate Democrats.
Excellent way to go, man. I had this conversation with Lee Camp a couple months ago, and I was watching one of his videos, and I hit him up, and I said, man, I love the way you handled that Trump issue. And he says, Tim, man, just stick to the policies. Yeah. You know, which is not what the Democrats, and you alluded to this earlier, Kyle. You said they weren't talking about these really important issues. They hit Trump on shit that does not matter. They hit Trump on style. They hit Trump on mannerisms, tweets. But the policies they're kind of in line with. Like, they didn't complain about Syria. In fact, what they say?
They supported it. Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi supported it openly. That says everything right there. So, yes, and that's why you and I understand. I totally agree with people who go, you know what? Nope. The Democrats, nope. You think I don't get it? Oh, I get it. I'm leading that charge. Even though we're doing Justice Democrats and we're trying to take over the Democratic Party, every fiber of my being goes, fuck these people, because they're so immensely wrong that you're right. They would rather tone police Donald Trump. Donald Trump could say something totally banal and reasonable on one issue, and they would tone police him and act like, oh, so unpresidential. What does that mean, unpresidential? To me, you know what's unpresidential? If you don't support Medicare for all, if you don't support free college, if you're not fighting for the people, if you don't want to end the wars. So that means, guess what, corporate Democrats? You're also unpresidential. We have to be in favor of more. Like Joy-Ann Reid was just talking about this the other day. I covered it on my show. She did a segment where she was on Sirius XM radio, and she was basically talking about how the step number one is we need to get somebody back in the White House who could be respected. And it's like, well, what does that mean? So you're just saying to have somebody who's polite in there. But guess what? You can have a president who's polite, who bails out Wall Street and who does their bidding and who keeps doing endless war. You could have somebody who puts a smiley face on empire and incredible rotting corruption. So we need people who care about the issues and who will fight relentlessly for the issues. And we need the Democrats to drop the style stuff. But you know what, Tim? You and I both know why the Democrats focus on stuff like that. Because their donors say whenever Trump goes for this deregulation and whenever Trump is helping out corporate America, corporate Democrats are fine with that. So the donors tell them, shh. So what do you have to attack them on? What's left? Russia.
Yeah, and it's not going to go anywhere. People are still holding out hope, man. Bro, what is it with these people with a fetish for Mike Pence? Like, I'm not excited about this guy. One good thing about Trump is he's incompetent. He's not getting a lot of shit done. Mike Pence, I think he knows how to wield the wheels a little bit better. He can steer that car directly into the cliff if he wants to, and I think that's what he'll do. So I'm not all excited about this idea of impeaching Trump, but on the same note, bro, I'm not here to protect his ass. Like, if he deserves to be impeached, go ahead and do it. But stop playing games with our emotions on this guy, and let's get back to focusing on things that really matter to people who work hard every day, who are just trying to keep a roof over head. You know, we talked all this time. I know you heard the stories about the Gold Star family and the death of LaDavia Johnson. And look, meanwhile, we got veterans sleeping outside right now in front of perfectly heated buildings that are empty. But no one gives a shit. But if Trump says some horrible shit, and if he said that, it was horrible, and I hit him on it. But come on, guys. That's not, look, we got bigger fish to fry. And it's like people don't want to fry that fish, bro. They want to go to McDonald's and pick up a quarter pounder with cheese. Motherfucker, let's focus on the fish frying that we need to do, Kyle.
Yeah, and use that, like you just said, use that issue to then segue into, we have over 50,000 veterans who are homeless. They're saying you're being so impolite to this family. Yeah, he's being so impolite to that family. It's also pretty impolite to have a system where over 50,000 veterans are homeless, but they don't say a word about that. And that's the thing that's crazy, is because it shows you they don't really care about the issues. And you're right about Mike Pence, because the thing that annoys me is, stop thinking it's an end game. Like, if you think Trump should be impeached, okay, I get it. There's a million things you could already impeach him on. He's already, his first raid as a president, military raid, killed an 8-year-old American girl. You could impeach him on that alone. He's done a million things you can impeach him on. The emoluments clause. He takes money from foreign governments for himself all the time. So yes, you can impeach him if you want to impeach him. But stop pretending, and this is what they're doing, is they're pretending like, well, then that would fix it. No, it wouldn't fix it. Because then tomorrow you have Dick Cheney as president because Mike Pence said his model is Dick Cheney. Mike Pence is a guy who gave speeches on the floor of the House where he said he credits Rush Limbaugh for him being elected. He's a guy who says, I don't believe in evolution. I think we should teach creationism. This is a guy who is extreme, and he would put a smiley face on the empire, and he'd bring politeness back to the brutality that we have in the White House. So if somebody's in favor of impeaching Trump, I think that's a perfectly reasonable and legitimate debate to have and a perfectly legitimate position to have. But just stop pretending like that billionaire Democrat is Tom Steyer. Stop pretending like then we can all relax. No, because then you get Dick Cheney and it's just as dangerous. The only thing that might be better with Mike Pence is that maybe we wouldn't be as close to on the verge of war with North Korea with Mike Pence. But outside of that, it's almost exactly the same.
And we also don't want an Obama version 2.0 and Kamala Harris that lulls us to sleep while the media goes back into freaking hibernation while she would do the Obama's two-step and bomb other countries while no one talked about it, while she becomes the deporter-in-chief all over again. Like, we don't need that shit. And that's the only saving grace in Trump is at least now I know what's going on. I don't have to dig through encyclopedias worth of, big-ass libraries full of documents to find out what the hell the president's doing. That's the only good thing about it. With Obama, there were so many things he was about, so many policies, whether it would be the destruction of habeas corpus, whether it would be interventionists, whether we dropped so many bombs, we ran out of fucking bombs, and no one was talking about it. I didn't even know he was a deporter-in-chief until people called my show and alerted me to what was happening. ICE didn't start deporting people yesterday, people. This shit's been going on. And it's so hard to balance between, yes, I hate that about Obama. Trump is not an upgrade. Calm y'all ass down. You guys looking for a savior? It's you. It's you. Right. You are the savior. We are the savior. It's about what we do. Because in Washington right now, it's a no-win game for us, Kyle.
And that's the main point is don't take a no for an answer. You're right, Tim. Everybody listening right now, you are the answer. You're the answer. But the point is, don't ever let a politician talk down to you or have them convince you that they're on your side until you see action. I don't give a shit about speeches. They could take their speeches and shove them up their ass. I don't care. I care about your votes. And we have to be on them, even in a situation where, I'm going to blow everybody's mind right now, even in a situation where we get Bernie Sanders elected, the next day we don't go, oh, well, we got our guy. No, because you know what? It would still be Bernie Sanders in the White House and 1,000 motherfuckers around him trying to tank him and say, you're not going to get a single thing done. So what we need to do is roar and let everybody know, no, we're done playing around, man. If every other modern nation could have single payer and we don't have single payer, if Slovenia can afford free college and we can't have free college, really? No, the answer is we don't take no for an answer. And we fight them, whether it's the Republicans and it's Trump or whether it's the corporate Democrats. And don't let anybody ever try to smear you when you're really hard on corporate Democrats. That's something that's happened a lot to Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore has been very upfront about attacking corporate Democrats to the point where, oftentimes he'll spend more time on the corporate Democrats on his show than on Republicans.
Right.
What happens is there are people who try to smear him and act like he believes things he doesn't believe. And they try to say he's pro-Trump or he's with the Republicans or he's a conspiracy theorist or he's this or he's that. Look, even on every now and then I don't agree with him on something. It's irrelevant because what matters is policy. And Jimmy's fighting harder than anybody for Medicare for all, for free college, for ending the wars, for all those other things that are really important. So everybody needs to do that.
Absolutely, man. Give it up for that. And look, it's so funny, Kyle. Friday night, someone called into my show telling me about what they were doing to Jimmy. So during the show, live on the air, I'm texting Jimmy like, dude, I heard they're attacking you, bro. Is there anything I can do? He's like, man, it's okay. It's the same old smear shit. By the time I got off the show, they had moved to me. So
Oh,
the
man.
Near-Tandon crew had
I
come
saw
my way
that.
with the same talking points. Republican, Trump supporter. If you talk like a Trump supporter, because you don't say, if you challenge Democrats, you're by default a Trump supporter. There's no nothing in there. I covered Seth Rich. I did a couple videos on it 6 months ago, 9 months ago. So now I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm Alex Jones now, and that's all that is to it. We don't care that Ro Khanna was on my show. We don't care that Ben Jealous was on the show. We don't care that Nina Turner was on the show. No. 9 months ago, 6 months ago, you asked what happened to this white kid that lived only 20 miles from me because I'm from this area.
Yeah.
Now I'm a conspiracy theorist because I want answers for that. So it's just ironic that they use the same talking points. And you know what? There are some people who actually buy into the nonsense. Jimmy is one of the most sincerest people that I've met that does commentary. We could all sell out if we wanted to. We've all learned that there is no upside to not being able to look in a fucking mirror.
You know what? The most ironic thing is that they will attack you and attack Jimmy and act like, oh, you're carrying water for the Republicans and all this stuff. Meanwhile, tell me who's enabling the Republicans when Neera-Tandon's whole career was based on propping up somebody who's a Democrat who supported the Iraq War, who supported the Patriot Act, who orchestrated intervention in Libya, who supported NAFTA, who supported deregulation. So for them to tell you guys, when you are down the line in favor of populist left policies and making people's lives better, for them to tell you guys that you are somehow helping Republicans. And look, you don't even have to go as far as the examples you brought up. If you just bring up the Clinton Foundation, oh my God, they will act like that's it. You're helping Republicans and you're not uniting and you're not doing this and you're not doing that. No, meanwhile, they're the problem and they're the reason why Democrats keep losing. They lost 1,000 seats under Nancy Pelosi, under Chuck Schumer, with people like Neera-Tandon in power, always in Democratic circles. They lost 1,000 seats under Obama. That's not an accident. That's what happens when you run people who aren't like Bernie Sanders and who aren't principled on the issues and who try to cover up the dirt in their own party.
Man, excellent, man. I tell you. And look, Kyle, I'm at the point where I believe that they're not upset so much that Hillary lost. They're upset that they lost opportunities to get jobs in D.C.
100%. They're all careerists. Every last one of them. Neera-Tandon's the biggest example of a careerist. She was upset because she's supposed to be chief of staff or president of the United States right now, and she's not. So instead, she's picking Twitter fights
Yep.
and smearing people who are actual lefties who are fighting for the people.
Kyle, man, look, man, I want to thank you so much for coming on, man. This has been a hell of a show. Hard-hitting like I knew it would be, man. I know how you roll. I know how you get down, bro. Tell people where to go to find out more about whatever you'd like to promote tonight.
So my Twitter is at Kyle Kulinski, and YouTube channel is youtube.com/secular talk. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, Tim.
No doubt, man. Hey, look, guys, that's it. The end of the show, man. Go follow Kyle. Secular Talk on YouTube. Kyle Kulinski on Twitter. Are you on Facebook, Kyle?
There's a Secular Talk Business Facebook. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No doubt, man. That's what's up, man. And look, guys, thank you for having us. We appreciate it. Keep hope alive. Keep fighting. Don't let nobody take your goddamn cornbread. And we'll see you on the next one. Excellent show, Kyle.
Tim, thanks a lot, man. I really had fun. I appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. And we
Tim Black
are done, man.
Yes,
all right, sounds good.
Thank you, brother. And we